Welcome to Talking Comics. We have Keith Foster. Now, you're one of the co-founders of Invader, or
Yeah,
is
yeah.
that all right?
Managing partner at Invader, correct.
Managing partner. Awesome.
Mhm.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into the Invader, and then we got your
Sure.
comic to talk about too.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
a lot to
Let's
get
do it.
to.
Yes, yeah. No, that's awesome. So I think I'll talk about like my comic self, which
Okay.
is comics wise. I mean, I've been a comics fan since the mid '80s. I fell in love with comics in 7th grade. I fell out of love with comics in 8th grade. I fell back in love with comics right around the time I went to college, and that was when I never looked back. So yeah, I mean, after that, I've loved comics for a long time. I've collected comics for a long time. Sometime in 2010, um, me and a couple friends said, I mean, there's a much longer version of this story, but I'm actually part of a funk band that is on Spotify right now. The band's name is Big Pimp Jones. Big Pimp Jones. And
I want to know why I haven't seen this on your Instagram.
I mean, I should put more of it on there. But the two records that we had on labels that did the best were both fake, like blaxploitation soundtracks. And what we pitched to the label as a sequel to those at the time was a fake Godzilla soundtrack. So it sounded like a funky Godzilla soundtrack. The label passed, but then I was like, well, this is a cool soundtrack, like, what if I made a giant monster story? What if I wrote a giant monster story? And that's the birth of Kadoja. So I met, had two people that I knew, Rory Smith, who drew the interiors, and Lance Pilgrim, who was art design and also just general all around. He put the book together. He had these great ideas, and he was there to help bring the story together as well, in addition to doing the covers and art direction. And we self-published that for a couple of years. So we got up to around issue 5. We collected it in a trade. We actually did a hardcover on to make it that year, but Lance and Rory did. Turns out that tabling not far from us at New York Comic Con was Mike Perkins, and the other people who were part of 215 Inc. at the time. Mike saw the book. He said, I'm interested in the book, and we're interested in publishing it. We signed a contract. The rest is history. Ever since maybe 2015, 2016, I've been part of 215 Inc. and then as a creator, and then a little bit after that, I had the opportunity to become part of the company itself, and I was like, great. So I worked with Mike and a couple other people on 215 for a while, and then one thing changed, another thing changed, etc. And then we decided that, yes, let's rebrand and have kind of Invader come out of the ashes of 215. And that's what we've been doing ever since with Kevin Miller, the third partner of Invader Comics. And in the meantime, I've continued to write more comics along the lines. I mean, so since 2010, I've written 18 issues of Kadoja. That is a complete story. I've written 2 volumes of a kung fu story called Three Protectors. I've written issues 1 and 2 of a book called Animals, which is a horror story. I've also written my debut novel, which is going to come out later this year. We already did a Kickstarter for it, but it's going to be in bookstores in the fall.
Awesome.
It's called The Witchmaster of Norway. And then, of course, I have my newest book, which is currently up for order on comic shops, and it's called Space Minotaur.
So it is on When's the FOC on that?
March 16th.
Okay. All right. Let me make sure I do that before we get off this call.
Sure. And in the meantime, if you don't mind, let me turn on my lights, because I'm going to start to have a very haunted look to me in a second as the sun goes down. There you go.
I'm gonna
Apologies. Yeah, that's that looks a lot better than me looking like I'm in some kind of covert operations tunnel.
Right. I'm gonna pull up League of Comic Geeks. Is it on there for pull? Do you know?
I'm not sure.
Okay. I got on Mike about that to get Digger up there, and it got up there, so hopefully it will. But I'll definitely, if not, I'll text my my shop, make sure he adds it to his list.
Awesome.
Because I'll be there before the 16th. 'Cause like I said, this road trip's gonna take me, gone for a week. So I'll leave Sunday and I'll get home roughly the following Sunday. So
yeah.
I told him next week I won't be able to get my pulls next week, but the only pull that matters next week is the one that I'm printing myself. So
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. You got to go for you. Yeah,
that's
totally.
right. So that's exciting. So Invader came from this 215 Inc. That's pretty
Mm-hmm.
cool. You kind of rebranded, relaunched. What year was that?
Let me think. It's 20. I think it was 2022. I think it was
2022.
2022. Mm-hmm.
Very cool. And what was the first thing you guys did there with
We we
Invader?
we did a. I think we had never 215 had never collected a book called Dr. Crow in graphic novel format. So that was our launch book, Dr. Crow.
Very cool. That
Yeah.
is awesome. And then you guys are killing it. Like you've got a bunch of books coming out. The Caitlin Kickstarter, Devil in the
Yeah.
Herd has gone
Yeah. Thank you.
crazy. That one
Thank
was
you.
so fun talking to her. You guys have been awesome to me, so I really appreciate it. You letting me
Yeah.
interview all your people and everything. That's been amazing. So when did you get into like drawing your own? Do you do any drawing or you just
I
do
do
writing?
not. I do not. I only write.
Yep, me too.
I am learning to draw, but it is awful, and I'm trying to make a commitment to draw with the idea of maybe drawing my own comic by like the year 2030. Like no,
Okay.
I mean yeah, I've
Yeah.
I've had similar things in life like this before. The year 2030 is going to come around, and I have two options. I can either enter the year 2030 or I can enter the year 2030 knowing how to draw. So I might as well go toward that goal of knowing how to draw by the year
I like
2030 or
that.
so. Yeah.
I didn't put a year on mine, but I'm very similar in like I want to learn to draw too. Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had a good conversation with Caitlin about that. She's like, "Well, you should learn how to draw. If you
Hmm.
don't draw, or if you can't draw, you die." Or I don't know, she said something like that. It was funny.
Okay. Fair.
So how are you doing that? What are you doing to learn? Like
I mean, it's funny because I also do a comic podcast on making comics called Making Comics. My
making
podcast
comics.
partner Scott Lost has been very instructive in giving me the good ways to learn, and so something I've had. So I did take an online drawing class at the Kubert School. I thought that was really fun. I'm probably going to sign up for another one at the next wave because you can really. I'm the type of learner where I don't do asynchronous learning. I don't do self-guided learning. I'm not good at it. What I'm good at is being accountable to an instructor, either in a live setting or in a virtual setting can work as long as it is a weekly class meeting. You are talking to me, you are telling me, Keith, that I need to give you homework, etc., right? Like,
Right. Okay.
anything outside of that, I'm just not good at being accountable for it. I like that extra accountability of it. So I did that, and that was fun. But it was a 6-week class, and since then I've just been, one of the things they suggested. I guess my combination right now are I'm doing what I think most people do when they're incredibly young and they start drawing, which is I'm just tracing. That's it. So I'm just finding cool things. I bought myself one of those cheap light boxes, right? It's basically just a screen that lights up. And once a day, what I'm trying to do is put something on it and trace it and then fill it in. And then I remove it and then I try to draw it freehand. And ideally, I keep on trying to draw it. So, it's one of these things of like, I don't really want to measure myself daily. I just want to put my head down and do it and do it and do it. And then maybe after a while I look up and say that was good. Or I finally redraw this Doctor Doom that I did. And I'm like, that's pretty good. I finally did something good. And even in the early stages, there are moments. There are moments where you
Yeah.
just get a nice line or you do a quick figure drawing and you're like, I got the essence of that figure. That's all right. There's something here. And that's all I can ask right now.
I like that. I was one of Caitlin's suggestions was finding like a class, and I actually went to a convention this past Sunday, and one of the people I was talking to, I've met him a couple times at different conventions, but I overheard him telling somebody else that he works at an art studio, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is. So I went up to him, I'm like, so do you do classes? He's like, we do. And he's like, the next one's a painting class. Like, I don't know if I want to paint. I want to learn to like, to draw.
Figure drawing, yeah.
But I might take it anyway just to get
Do
something, because
Yeah.
I've loved the collaboration with the artist. I found an artist, like you were saying how you learn. Like I learn by doing, right? I have
Mhm.
to do something, like this podcast. Like I had to do it and test it and throw the stuff out there, and I don't care what it looked like. I just had to learn how to do it, and episode whatever is a lot better than episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Exactly. You learn to do by doing. Absolutely.
And I was like, I've got, the writer's bug now. I'm working on script 2, on this notebook now that I've got the first one pretty much done and going to print. And I've got like 3 more in my, head. The cool things, because all of my the comics right now are based on like the podcast mascot.
Mm-hmm.
We have like a comic word bubble mascot.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about that is he can be in any time, any space, anywhere. There's no like restrictions. So I want to do a Western. I want to do like a space story. I want to do like a medieval story,
Absolutely.
And I had this really cool idea for like what I would want as my cover for like the Western, and I tried to draw it the other day, trying to trace over a picture that's similar. I still need a lot of work, but I like that idea though of tracing, and because that's what I did, but just doing it every day.
Yeah.
Like you got to keep at it.
I think the most important thing is to simply do something. And when you're at the place where it sounds like you and I are, anything works. There isn't a thing you can't do. We don't know how to draw. So anything involving drawing is going to be a good thing. And, that's what Scott mentioned. He's like, when I was young and I first, wanted to do stuff, I just traced stuff or drew it or whatever and scribbled and, did it that way. So, I think sometimes it's the adult brain that gets in the way. If I was learning comics if I was 7 right now, I wouldn't even think twice about this. I wouldn't have some kind of, personal dilemma over like whether I should trace as a way to learn comics, but the kid in me wouldn't care. So therefore I shouldn't care.
Imposter syndrome.
Maybe. I mean, it's quite obvious I'm an imposter when it comes to art, right? Like I'm not drawing anything. Yeah.
I can do graphic design a little bit and I'm okay. Yes. Like, but it's so in art, I guess is the same way. Cause graphic design is art. Like it's so open to interpretation. Like,
yes,
there's no right way and there's no wrong way. That's the way I feel about it. And like, I think it's the right way, but everybody, other graphic designer, like, nope, this is totally wrong. You got to do it this way. I'm like, okay, like they look the same to me, but whatever.
Yeah. I think that's mistaking craft guidelines for rules.
Right.
Right. It's not a rule. It's a craft guideline and it worked for you. There's no wrong way to do it as long as the end product looks good.
Yeah, I think mine looks good. See, this is the cover. You can't really see it, but that's the cover that I did for my book. Whoops,
yeah.
There they go. But it's just, it's very simple. But the whole premise is he lives in a comic book and he's found in the dollar box, right? So
nice.
It's kind of simple, but that's graphic design. I didn't draw a thing up.
Yeah.
Now, my artist, he did a couple other covers that are really cool. So, that's cool. We have like 7 covers. I don't know how that happened, but I have 7 covers for this comic book. It's ridiculous.
That is, you're with the times, man. You're sticking with the trends. I like it.
I guess. So what was your inspiration to start writing?
I think it was a long journey. I took a screenwriting class in college and I loved it. I took a creative writing class in college and I loved it. Out of my screenwriting class, a couple years out of college, I sort of worked on a movie script that was terrible, but I didn't think it was terrible at the time. And so I was working on that and then I did that. And then I think I sort of took the writing, pushed it aside because of the chasing the dream in music and seeing what I could do with the band and seeing where we could go there. And we did okay. We got indie level cred. We released records on a couple labels, and you can hear our music on Spotify, I suppose.
Is it only Spotify? Is it on Apple Music?
I'm sure it's on Apple Music.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I got a lot of windshield time coming up, so I'm gonna be searching for some music. So
there you go.
I'm going to be searching for Big Pimp James.
Yes, Big Pimp Jones.
Jones. Yep. Sorry, I can't read my handwriting.
Instrumental funk. That's if you want instrumental funk, then you're gonna get it there.
My daughter might actually really enjoy that too. Which
okay.
Would be fun. That'd be really fun.
So yeah, I mean, it was one of those things of it just, you want to say it sort of happened,
Right.
Because once we had that opportunity with the record, it's like, well, I've written stuff. I love comics. It was like one of these things of like, wait a minute, why not try this? And I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know how to write a comic. I knew how to I knew what screenplay format was.
Okay.
And so I did what I recommend other people do if they just want to learn how to write a comic, which is go to your local comic shop, find or ask them for a recommendation of a graphic novel that has some script pages in the back. Because I think in my case, I was a huge Brian Michael Bendis fan. I had collected all of his indie comics. I even had some original art from an early Brian Michael Bendis book. And at the time, I think Powers maybe it wasn't the Powers script book, but it was one of his books like Powers, where they had like 4 or 5 pages of script to the story. And I was like, that's all I need. And I literally just copied that format. And by copying the format, I essentially copied the way Brian Michael Bendis writes a comic script, because different people can write scripts differently. There are some people that are incredibly verbose in the margins, or, they paint a huge picture, and then some people are a little bit tighter, so yeah. But then I just went from there and learned. And then at some point, this is why mimicry is okay in drawing, because mimicry was okay in writing until I got my legs under me, and then I knew how to do it. And then once you know how to do it, you're like, well, wait a minute, why don't I just do this? Why don't I do it this way? And you can do it that way. And before you know
your own style.
Exactly. You beat me to it. You've developed your own style.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That was
all right.
That was how I started writing my script. It was a lot of Stephanie Phillips's videos. This is how I write a script, or this is how I start. I number my sheet 1 through 20 and put my main ideas down, and I was like, well, I can do that much.
Yeah.
So I did that one day sitting here, and I was like, well, now I got to turn it into a script. And I went to Seattle, and I went on an Alaskan cruise several months ago. And I was like, well, I got a 6-hour plane ride out there to Seattle and 5 hours back. So I took that 11 hours and wrote my script on the plane. And I had nothing else to do.
Plane rides are my absolute favorite place, like, in the world to write. And like, I mean, like, some people, they just can't wait for like you to get airborne so they can turn their texting on and they can text in flight. I'm like, no. I
left
don't,
it all off.
I want this 3 to 6 hours of just nothing, so I can read or I can write and I can really think. So yeah, airplanes are wonderful for getting writing done.
I need to book more plane rides, is what you're telling me.
There you go. From my mouth to your ears. Yeah.
I need to go to long plane rides. I wish I would have been riding, because I went to Germany 2 years ago, and that was a long plane ride.
Yes.
But 8 hours, but it was all right. I didn't sleep at all. I was hoping I would sleep, but it didn't happen.
It's
but
the
I got
reverse
to go
of
to Germany for a week, so that's
very
really cool. Man. Yeah, so writing, like, I have never been a writer. That was weird for me, is how I got this writing bug. Like, I hated writing. I hated reading too. But I read comics, but like to grab like a novel off the shelf, no, not gonna be. Even today I won't do that. Now I've got a 1,000-page Thor omnibus that I'm reading every night, but that's different.
Yeah. I hear you. I do both, so yeah, it's all good.
So when you decided to you wrote a comic book script, how did you find your artist and how did you make it happen?
Yeah, so Rory Smith, the guy who did the first 10 issues of Kadoja. So it actually starts with Lance. So Lance Pilgrim is the person who was the graphic designer and sort of the editor of those early Kadoja comics. And I knew, so this is one of those follow the bouncing ball. I knew Lance because my band had done a record with a DJ based out of Philadelphia. Actually, his name is Scheme Richards. And so we had done a single with Scheme Richards. Lance was the graphic designer for that 45. He put the graphic design together. So I naturally met Lance, and then we found, we bonded over obviously funk music and things that are cool, but also a shared love of comics. We all, all three of us and so many people loved all that nostalgia stuff, right? And old comics and everything. So we kind of bonded over that. And then I think when the proposed record came through, this sort of not Godzilla this fake Not Godzilla soundtrack came through, I think he was the one I hit up and said, well, what do you think about this? He's like, cool. He's like, I got an artist who I think you'll like. And that was when he put me in contact with Rory Smith. And at the time, Rory had drawn his own comic, I think, and Lance met him because he had done some party flyers for Lance, I believe. But it turned out he did his own comics. And then I looked at Rory's samples, and there was one sample in particular where there was a Bigfoot sort of chasing a Jeep through the mountains. What blew me away was Rory's use of perspective. It was the closest thing to a giant monster that he'd done, but it was also like his use of perspective was so amazing. And so, yeah, one thing led to another, and then, Rory drew, inked everything the first 10 issues of Kadoji. He got a little assist because he had to sort of move on to something else about halfway through issue 9. But yeah, so that's kind of how it started.
I'm sure it's the same for you, but for me, it was amazing to get pages back, when something that I wrote and just loosely wrote on paper. I was very loose on my script. It wasn't tight at all, but which is fine. I wanted him to have his interpretation of however he saw it. Yes. And just getting that back is just the best feeling in the world.
It also never gets old. Like
really?
I just got interiors back of what would essentially be what I name, I think, 4 sort of five titles / properties that I've written. And there's a 6th, there's a new story, because after I did, that 10-year run plus of Kadoja, essentially, I was like, well, let me keep on telling more stories in new universes, in mini series with new characters, whatever. That's just my muse. And so this one is another new thing. And I just got pages back today, and I was like, amazing. Same exact feeling. So, that's a good thing. There are no diminishing returns on getting art back from artists. It feels like the first time every time. And it feels like the first time every single time you get your book from the printer.
Well,
every
right.
time.
That's next
week. Magic.
I cannot wait. Like, I might cry. I'm going to try to record everything. Like,
yes.
I'm going to have my daughter recording. I might even put like a GoPro on her just to walk around or something. But
yeah,
I'm going to try. We're going to do our episode because we always record on Thursdays, her and I, when she gets out of school. And, but she won't be in school next week. But I'm going to we're going to set up and interview the owner of the print shop. It's a friend of mine as well. And, it's going to be an amazing, experience to just have that thing in my hands. And
awesome.
I can't wait. It's going to be so cool.
It is everything you think it's going to be.
Then hopefully I'll sell a copy or two, hopefully. So
that's also cool.
Yeah. The first time you sell one, I'm sure is another great feeling.
It was cool. Yeah, I mean, I can't say I remember it like I remember, the feeling of the first. Because I think the first time I sold Kadoja was Philadelphia. It was Wizard World Philadelphia. I think that's where it was. And yeah, I mean, it's weird to think back on that show to know that, because I vaguely remember how many copies I sold, and it's like Look, it was like $5. You're going to sell more copies. Like now here I am, 15 plus years in, and I have graphic novels. I have series of graphic novels, but just the units moved at that first show. It was great, and it was like one comic, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. So yeah, I remember, to your point, I don't necessarily remember one sale, but I remember that experience of the first show. Like, this is so cool. This is something that I helped create, that I helped put into the world, and other people want to buy it and they want to read it and they seem like they are interested in it.
Well, I have that coming up March 21st. So
awesome.
The first show, we're doing a little one-day show at like a high school.
Okay.
Little nerd fest kind of show.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're doing a bunch actually. I mean, we're traveling all over. I'm going to Terrificon. Are you guys going to Terrificon?
I don't know. We are not. I can't remember where that one is.
In Connecticut.
Oh, okay.
In August. That's the biggest one I think I'm going to be doing. But we're going to do some in Michigan, Oklahoma, North Carolina, Georgia. I'm looking for a couple in Texas. I'm going all over. Except the West Coast yet. I'll be the West Coast eventually.
Are you driving to all those shows?
Most likely.
Okay, yeah.
So.
That's the East Coast advantage right there. The East Coast advantage is that you can drive to nearly everything.
Right.
Out here in Southern California, it's like I got okay, here are the following towns or metro areas that are less than a 10-hour drive away. Less than 10. San Diego,
yeah,
Las Vegas, Phoenix, the Bay Area. I'm done. I think that's it. Now,
yeah.
I mean, that's it, and those are still all great places, but even
Seattle's probably Seattle's probably 12, 13, 14 hours.
Yeah. I mean, Seattle's like a 21-hour drive from here or something. Oh yeah.
Jeez.
It's,
okay.
I think I remember Portland, I think is 20 because we have family in Portland and we've debated whether maybe it's either 16 or 20, but it's quite a bit. So maybe Portland's 16 and Seattle's 19 or something like that. But it's a bear. No, it's a flight place. Yeah.
Oklahoma City's like 18 hours. That's about the far, then get to like Austin about the same time if I go the other way.
Yeah.
Michigan, where I'm going, is 15 hours next week.
Okay, so you're a road warrior. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love traveling. So
yeah. Salt Lake City is 11. So I've done Salt Lake City in the past too.
All right. Yeah. So that's my goal. One day I'll end up in Oklahoma and then I can start doing like, the
branching.
I'll be in the crossroads. I can go anywhere at that point.
Anywhere.
So, then I could do more like Vegas and Salt Lake. I've been to those places. I love those places, but I don't want to live there yet. But
yeah, I hear you.
It is what it is. So tell us about your new book, Space Minotaurs. Tell us about that.
I mean, it's my favorite pitch ever. It's the Minotaur, but in space. It's it's the premise of it is that the Minotaur. I'll talk about the premise and then I'll talk about how the title first came up because so the premise is the Minotaur did not die in the labyrinth. That's something that is touched on in one of the two stories here in, Invader Comics presents Space Minotaur, which presents two separate stories from the life of Space Minotaur. So it was a fun idea. It came about as pure accident. I was actually in a comic shop. I think they had to close because the owner retired. But it's a place called Enjoy Comics, and it was in Hilo, Hawaii. So, and at the time it was the only comic shop on the Big Island. So I'm there and I am digging through comics on the floor. They had like really nice $2 bins. So there's like a sort of $2 and 10 boxes wide on the top, 10 boxes wide on the floor. I'm sitting there on the floor and I'm going through the $2 bins and I'm just, whenever I dig hard for comics, I pull out everything that I even remotely like. And then I do a second pass to decide if I actually want to buy it. Like, was that just a fun spur of the moment thing? So I'm digging through stuff and I'm pulling out books, in like, I don't know, the indie section or something. I'm like, okay, or just mixed in. I'm like, Star Trek. Okay. Yeah, maybe, oh, that's a cool Batman. I don't know if I have that. All right. Space Minotaur, Green Arrow, some indie book. And I'm like, wait a minute. Did I just pull out a book called Space Minotaur? And so I go back through the books and I look at them. The title wasn't Space Minotaur. In fact, it was Space something. It wasn't Minotaur. So I had misread the title. Space Minotaur didn't exist. So I'm going to invoke a weird Simpsons reference here. I don't know if you know your Simpsons, but there's an episode where Homer sees a billboard advertising a clown college. And he claims he's like, what a stupid idea. Clown college is stupid. But then over the next 3 minutes, all he's doing is thinking about how stupid clown college is. And then at the dinner table, he stands up and goes, fine, I'm going to clown college. And then everybody's like, what are you even talking about? So in a similar method, after I didn't see Space Minotaur, I'm just walking out of the store like, but should Space Minotaur exist?
Yes.
Like a comic like this, Space Minotaur doesn't exist, so it should, right? And so for a little over a day, I just kept it to myself. I'm like cycling through my head. I'm like, should I do this book, Space Minotaur? Right? Like it seems interesting, but what would it be? What would it talk about? Like what would the characters be? What would they do, etc. And then much like Homer, I'm like having coffee with my wife and a couple of our friends the next day. And I'm like, okay. I got this idea. It's been bothering me. It's been bothering me since yesterday. And so I said, I tell them the whole story. I'm like, so like, should I do Space Minotaur? And they're like, oh God, yes. Yeah. So do that. So that's, it started with a misread comic title. And then everything just built after that. The natural questions I think you ask yourself as a writer. If a comic is called Space Minotaur, well then what do I do? How do I get the Minotaur in space? Wait, the Minotaur's dead. Why is it alive? Okay, well, everything you ever read was a myth. That's no pun intended, right? Like that's not the way it happened. The Minotaur survived. And so then once you have that, it just opens up, a lifetime, a millennia potentially of stories about the Minotaur.
It's amazing. So what you sent me to read, is that what the book is, or is there more to it? Or
that is the first two stories.
Okay.
First two stories. There are, so we're doing that as like a proof of concept, where they are standalone stories, but believe it or not, there is something larger at play here, right? So it's fun. It was fun to do. Sorry, when I say it's fun, I mean it was fun to think of, because the first story, that you see from the year 2186 is where I knew it would start. But then randomly, I don't know. So I love like tokusatsu. I love like old Japanese superhero TV. And I was like, well, let's involve superhero TV. Like, how fun would that be? And so yeah. Sorry, you know what? I'll continue with the origin story just a little bit. Bit, because so as I'm starting to write Space Minotaur, I had initially had the vision of Space Minotaur to be like sort of a gnarly, brutal, almost R-rated kind of space opera. And what I wanted was, before I had worked with the artist that I thought would be a good artist for it, I was like, what I'd really love is character sheets. I'd love to see what these things look like so I can give them as references to the artist. So I actually hit up Rory Smith, who I've been in contact with over the last couple of years. It turns out that we met on the East Coast, and we both now live out here in the LA area. And so I said, hey, would you be interested in drawing character sheets here? And so he drew the character sheets, he gave them to me, and he's like, so what if I told you I wanted to draw this comic? And I'm like, I mean, that would be the best thing, right? Like, the person that I first got into this comic journey with now wants to do Space Minotaur. So the rest is history. So to directly answer your question, 2 stories are published. There are 2 more that I've written, and we'll sort of see where this goes. And there is a larger thing at play here.
Awesome. So the FOC is March 16th.
Yes.
When's it going to release, roughly?
April 29th.
April 29th.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. I will definitely pick that up. It'll be on the wall. This will be, well, eventually it might be a whole Invader wall. I don't know.
Well, okay. Well, I have no arguments.
Well, except for, like, I might have to add another shelf, because my 7 covers are going to be up there at some point too. Mm-hmm. So,
Yeah, I hear you.
They take a little bit. I mean, I love you guys, but mine comes a little bit first.
I hear you.
No, it's nothing personal. What inspiration, or if you had to give somebody in the community, creator, whatever, a piece of advice, what is the one piece of advice you'd give somebody?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit cliche, but sometimes they're cliches because they're true. They're at least some degree true. And the answer, the thing I would say is just stick with it. The thing that works the best for me is stick with it, and I'll paraphrase here what I say to people when they'll come up to like my table at a show, or they'll ask me stuff. And I'll there's this great little video. It can't be more than a minute long. And it's a little snippet of speech from Ira Glass, who I believe did a very popular show on NPR. And what he talks about is this thing called the gap. And I'm gonna do my best to paraphrase it. And he says, what I wish people would have told me when I started out is that when you first start, you have good taste. you have good taste. But when you start making things, there's a gap between what you are making and your taste. And that's the thing that frustrates people. They see what they're making, but they know their taste. And there's this wide divide. Well, the way you narrow the divide is by making stuff. It's by doing stuff. It's by drawing every day. It's by writing every day. You know, in his case, he's talking about making a show, editing a show, whatever it is, whatever the thing you're doing, you know, and his thing, which I am, again, co-opting here, is like, trust your taste. Your taste got you here, and the more you work, the more your gap, the more you're going to narrow that gap to where your output is now matching your taste. So, and you only do that by showing up every single day, whatever it's going to be, by writing every day, by drawing every day. Reading every day is sort of like a what do I want to say? Like, it's a must. You must read every day. You know, it doesn't have to be anything. It can be anything specific. It can be comics. I gave my kids comics when they were younger. Comics are hopefully properly rated these days, but they might still be underrated as a way to get kids into reading, get people into reading. So these days I read a ton of stuff. I read novels, I read articles, I read comics, of course. But yeah, I mean, is a must, whatever it is, and then doing stuff every day is a must. And trust your taste, narrow the gap, sort of luxuriate in the frustration, and understand that the more things you do, the more you are going to close that gap from your output to your taste.
That's a great way of putting it. I have not heard that, and I know Ira Glass. Well, I don't know him personally, but I mean, I've listened to a lot of NPR in my life. But that's a great analogy, a great way to put a different perspective way to put that. Like we were saying earlier, like doing the podcast, like episode 1 is different than episode 20 to episode, whatever, just keep doing it and narrowing it and narrow the gap. I'm writing that one down. Narrow the gap.
And there's totally a diminishing, there's a I don't want to say diminishing returns. I think that'd be the second time I said it, but like there is every single page of script you write, every single drawing you do, every single page you draw, you're going to get better. And the need you have to get better, it gets smaller and smaller. So like the difference between the first page you and I ever draw and the 20th page you and I ever draw is going to be huge, because the first page is generally going to be awful, and the 20th page will probably be hopefully somewhat acceptable. And then the difference between 20 and 50 is going to be from somewhat acceptable to like okay, and then from 50 to 70 it's going to be from okay to like kind of good, and then before you know it, again, the more stuff you do, the more you get there. But you got to do those first ones and really punch through the stuff that's probably objectively lousy, but you do it with, you have to do it with a sort of, there's a great phrase in yoga, I think, that's like childlike wonder. As long as you approach everything with like childlike wonder, and I remember hearing that from like a yoga instructor. If you're trying to do like a certain pose and you fall over, well then have yourself a good laugh and get right back into it. It's not embarrassing. It's joy, right? You tried it, you almost got there, and now you keep on going. So, I think if you can approach the bad stages, the early stages of your own development, and try to just keep that sense of childlike wonder and not be particularly critical, I think it can yield great results.
It's crazy. This isn't the golf podcast like we were saying earlier, but we have there's so many similarities in the process of getting better at it works for anything.
Yes.
Because it's a lot of the same topics that we talk about here come up on the golf podcast, right? Like, and we have this thing where it's at least 20, right? Like if you're gonna do something or pass a certain yardage in golf, it takes 20 attempts. And you're gonna get better, you're gonna get a little worse, you're gonna get better. Like it's not just a straight line, right? It's
absolutely,
the similarities are just uncanny to me, which it's more motivation for me to keep going, keep doing
Yeah.
my graphic design covers, draw a little bit here and there, and
Yeah.
keep writing. The second script's so much better than my first script already.
Yeah.
I'm not done, but
Yeah.
it's getting there. But
Well, I mean,
it's
and I'll stay there on golf because, you know, something we said, I think, before we officially started. I do play golf. I've played golf for a long time. And so the, you know, the golf version of this would be if somebody that's never played golf before stepped on a golf course right now and tried to play a round of golf, they'd probably shoot, I don't know, a 300 if we were counting.
right.
You know, they'd quad up par, you know, they'd do whatever.
Right.
But the thing is, if you then go take a lesson or even two, and then you go out on the course again, maybe you shoot a 200, you know, and then you take a couple more lessons, and before you know it, you're shooting about a 120. You take a couple more lessons, and before you know it, you're somewhere around 100. And then, but then it's like, you know,
Yeah.
then the real work begins, because the amount of work it takes for you to go from a 6 handicap to a 4 is exactly as much work as it takes you to go from picking up a golf club to shooting an 85. You know,
Right.
like, and because now your margin for error is much lower. If you make one mistake, well, if you make the same amount of mistakes you make before, like, you have to reduce, if you shoot 6 over or something like that, well, then you probably made around 6 mistakes. But now you have to get it down to 4, you know, and like, that's really hard. It's really hard to only make 4 mistakes on a golf course.
Yes, it is. It's such a hard sport.
Yeah.
So much goes into it. It's crazy. It's funny that you say that, because like my daughter, when she literally started, her coach and I figured it up, like, because they had like a triple bogey rule in her high school matches.
Yeah, it's fair.
But she was reaching triple bogey in the middle of the fairway.
Hmm.
She made her lowest score, you know, the max score you get was a 63 on 9 holes. Her lowest score her freshman year was a 60. And that's because she got lucky and topped one, and it rolled up on a par 3, you know, a short 80-yard par 3, right?
Yes,
and
exactly.
she 2-putted for a par, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
But she went from that, and we figured out she literally, if you had to count every stroke, she probably would have shot up like a 150 to 180, like is literally what she would have shot. But then her senior year, she was 2 shots away from making states in 4 years. You know, it's just amazing.
Exactly.
You know, if you put the work in, like she did for 4 years, every day, doing something golf every day for 4 years. It's crazy. I haven't put that together in my head until just now. But I used to, you know, fond memories of not yelling at her, but like having discussions with my daughter. Hey, something golf every day. I don't care if it's putting on a ruler in your bedroom, you know, or if we're going to the course to play or practice or the range, whatever. You have to do something every day.
Yep.
And you could tell she took 1 week off. It would go down. So it's like with comics, with writing my script, I should write every day. I should read every day. I should draw every day. I should everything every day. I am back. I'm glad I brought this back to the reading, because I wrote this down. You mentioned, you know, it shouldn't be underrated. If it is, it should not be. Like I saw, you know, a year ago, I was having parent-teacher conferences with my youngest daughter's teachers, like, hey, she needs to read. Like, I'm trying, you know. She discovered comic books. I haven't got a call yet from the teacher. Like, they love it. And she sneaks them in her backpack, takes it, like, I'm waiting for that phone call, because she'll sneak, like, Harley Quinn's in her backpack.
Ooh, okay.
You know, because that's her favorite. But, like, you know what? I don't care. I know she's only 11. But if she's going to read, like, I let her read. She reads a lot of other stuff too, but she likes your stuff as well. She's read all the Invader stuff.
Awesome.
Excuse me. But the fact that she's reading, and I'm like speechless over it, because she has read so much and her reading's improved so much, and it's 100% due to comic books.
Yeah, exactly. Underrated. You know? Underrated. Yeah.
It shouldn't be. Dude, I've got some fun questions, but before that, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you'd like to talk about? Because the last thing I want anybody to do is leave my show and be like, oh, I wish you would have asked me this. And which we'll have more of a golf conversation while we're waiting for the upload. But
sure. I mean, I will let me say that, like, I'll stump a little bit more for Space Minotaur.
Okay.
Right?
Please. And Invader.
I mean,
anything you want to talk about Invader, I'm good.
I would say yes. Look, Invader, we've been here for 3-4 years.
Mm-hmm.
We believe in our books. We believe in the people that that are creators. We're creator friendly, and we just feel like we're incredibly proud of our output. And it's so fun to see. It's just cool. I mean, same thing, right? Like, we play, the publishers, we play a role in the books. I mean, our name is on the masthead. So it's, every book that I get my hands on, it's just like, yeah, this is really cool. I mean, it's really cool to know that this started as a conversation, or it started as an email, or it started as something. And now here it is, it's a published book on Invader, and it looks awesome, and I mean, that's the thing too, one of the, probably the best part of being a comic publisher is getting that book in the inbox, or getting that book that someone walked up to us to show and say, I'll send this to you, and getting it and getting like that feeling. And you're like, this book's awesome. We need to publish it, and like, that's the stuff that keeps you coming back. That's the drive that you catch pure right there. That's the thing that you're just going to be like, this is the best feeling. And I remember every reason why I do this, so.
On that note, real quick, sorry. Yeah. What do you tell these, what advice do you give to people that want to submit? What do you say to them? I mean, if it's great, you publish it. But what is something you'd say, like, hey, this isn't quite ready yet, or what are those conversations like?
How about this? The best way I can say it is, so the thing that what makes you the most likely to get published at Invader? That's the way I'll phrase it, right?
Hey, I love this.
So thing number one is, the story is complete. So we've had plenty of conversations with people that have given us a great pitch, great 8 pages of art, sometimes even a great single issue. And then they'll be like, this is a 4-issue series. And it's like, okay, it's really good. Call us when all 4 are done. Because we can't, the comic market doesn't really allow, I mean, the indie world, the Kickstarter world, it's different, right? Like, you could make a book, you could run a Kickstarter, you can do another one 8 months later, and time flies differently in the Kickstarter world. But when we're talking about the comic market, you barely wait, 1-2 months in between issues. You can be successful every other month, but even an every other month published schedule is going to mean you pretty much got to have everything right there ready for us.
4 to 6 issues done.
You got to have them done. So whatever. So again, if it, and we've had this, people are like, it's a 12-issue series. Here's issue 1. It's like, all right, well, you got to do all 12, so that's thing number 1 is if it's got to be done, or incredibly, incredibly close to being done, for us to be like, this is ready to publish. Otherwise, it's a cool book that we can't wait to see more of.
Right.
So that would be thing number 1. And then I suppose, I mean, have an original voice, have an original take, have something that we don't see a lot of. I mean, there's that great adage of like, there's nothing new under the sun. But there are lesser trod areas of the map now, aren't there? Right. So, I mean, and as if it's good, it overrides everything. I mean, Devil in the Herd is a great example. It's quote a Western, but it's not a Western. You have to expand it's a horror Western. And the second you say like it's a horror Western, it's like, oh, well, let's tell me more, please. So, all the books, right? Like The Digger, it's a fresh take on something. It's something that's sort of at once obvious, but yet people never did it. And that's what's fun about it, right? Like it's not as hard as people think to have something that's just a fresh take. So it can be original, it can be entirely original, or it can just be a fresh take, so yeah, that's what I would say. I mean, obviously it's got to be good, but good, original, and complete, or at least fresh. I don't want to say original, because people can get bogged down with original and think they need to make that, I don't know, novel about a crime fighting cupcake with a chainsaw arm that travels multiple dimensions or something like that. And that story hasn't been done, but there might be a reason for it as well. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. No, that was part of that. Put that in perspective to give that,
Sure.
I had a really good conversation with Jared Rowe and David Flores, the Do Not Disturb authors, illustrators. I've had them both on, but I've also just kept up with them. We've emailed and, chatted on, thing. And I sent them both my book because they were cool enough to, I don't know, you probably heard about it, but one of the things I did in my book is because since it's set in a comic shop, or part of it is, I was trying to figure out what books go on the shelf inside the comic shop inside my comic book.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to just use like generic or like rip off like Thor, which we did a couple of those, Thor or whatever. But what I did is a lot of the people that I've interviewed, I used their cover in the, so Do Not Disturb and The Digger are on the shelf inside my comic shop, right? Which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
So I sent them both. I sent everybody that I'm working on sending it, a digital copy, and I'll get them a physical copy when I get them. But I was like, what do you guys think? I want an honest opinion, like my comic, trying to, I want to learn. And they were really honest. And they were like, oh, we love it. It's all ages. It's really good. And it's the perfect, like, pitch to your podcast. Because it really is. It ties it to the podcast. And I was like, that makes perfect sense. I love that. Like that angle, right?
Yeah.
And because it ties to the podcast, ties to, and it has a good message because it's like got an anti-bullying message in it too.
Sure.
And it truly is for all ages. So I thought it was cool. So that made me feel good to be able to like go to shows and be able to pitch it as something for everyone.
Yes, absolutely.
So that was really cool.
No, and that sort of leads into the little bit of Space Minotaur additional stuff I want to say, right? Which is so we actually did a proof of concept of Space Minotaur about a year ago, and the biggest change from that to the Invader Presents Space Minotaur is it's much more age appropriate. So something that we did, is that the profanity is starred out. I'm not going to say how it starred because I would like you to pick up the comic. Yeah, I would like people to pick up the comic, but yeah, thank you. So, and the nice thing about that is that actually drops the age level to like, I don't know, like a 10-year-old could probably read that and not feel too, and we wouldn't feel bad about it. So that's kind of like thing number one is that it's close to an all ages book. Number two is that, I've talked about Rory Smith a fair amount here, but like Rory Smith, so the reason that he stepped away from Kadoja a long time ago is because he was pursuing a full-time career in animation. Since then, he has worked for basically every animation studio. And he's currently working for animation studios. And when I say everyone, I mean Pixar, I mean DreamWorks, right? He's done storyboards for them.
Wow.
And so I say that because when you pick up Space Minotaur, or if people out there aren't sure about it, they've never heard anything, like I encourage you to look it up online. It looks like an animated film. It looks exactly like these things. It has like an old school animation feel, but you can tell that the artist does storyboards and does animation and is very fluent with the forms, right? So, aside from that, I have fun with the writing. I tried to pepper in some references. So he'll make references to his past history as a subject of Greek myth. So there's, again, he is in fact the Minotaur, and he lets you know that through certain things in the book. So that's it. I just wanted to stump a little bit more for the book. That like I encourage people to check it out. I like to think it's fun. I had fun making it. Rory had fun drawing it, and we think that translates to the final product.
I can't wait to get a physical copy. I read a lot of digitally because for the podcast you have to because people send you a lot, which is fine. I get
it. Yeah.
I don't like it, but I do it. I'd much rather have I did not read. TS sent me The Digger like 4 or 5 times digitally, and I refused to read. I was like, I'm not reading it till it's in my hand.
Nice.
So actually, that was one I stood my ground. But I read Do Not Disturb digitally, and Caitlin sent me their first few pages of whatever however many pages it was. Devil in the Herd, which was awesome. Now I can't wait to get it. I did back it. I think I was backer number 3 or 4. So
awesome.
She told me I had to, or I was like, I don't know. She was going to send a van to my house, and
Okay, she knows people.
She knows people. Well, she also. I got on her good side because I didn't know she worked. I had no idea when I interviewed her. No clue that she does VFriends. And I actually have some of her V friends, which is
Well,
crazy.
that was there before you even knew her. Oh, that's killer.
Correct.
Okay.
So it wasn't there. It was on my pile, right?
Yeah,
It was on the shelf behind me here. And literally, I put out a video of my face when she's like, because she made the comment, "Oh, I work in art full time. You know, I'm lucky to get able to do this." I'm like, okay, so I was circling back to that, and I was like, "Oh, you get to do this full time? Like, how do you do that? It's pretty awesome."
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, "Oh, I work for this little company called V Friends," and I'm like, "Wait, what?" She's like, "Yeah, you've probably never heard of it." I'm like, and turn around, and I like pull out like my stack of V Friends comics.
Nice.
She made me open one, so this one's open.
Okay.
Yeah, she made me open because that's the other one she did. So I ended up having some of the ones she already did, which I thought was hilarious.
That's awesome.
I had no clue. She's like, "You actually know what they are?" And I'm like, "I have some."
Yeah, that's great.
Which that was just hilarious to me that she did that, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea where I was going with that, but I'm going to pick up your book. I think it circles back to digital and physical, and I'm going to get this March 16th. Go order it. So now the fun questions.
Let's do it.
All right. Who was your first favorite superhero or comic character?
Well, my first one was probably, I just have to say, Black Costume Spider-Man. That's when I got into comics. So I got into comics right during the Black Costume Spider-Man era before it became Venom, Carnage at all. Yeah, yeah.
Very cool. Do you remember the first comic book you ever read?
I do. I remember the first comic that I loved.
Okay,
and that was Secret Wars 4. Ooh. So for people not familiar with Secret Wars 4, that is the one where the cover is a lot of negative space, and it is the Hulk holding up a mountain, and there's like a narrow gap where all the superheroes are because he's keeping the mountain that has been thrown on them from crushing all of the heroes in Secret Wars.
That's cool. I'm gonna have to
as soon as I saw that cover, I'm like, I am here for this.
I'm in.
Show me more. Yeah, show me more.
Yeah, like you, I was into comics as a kid. Like when I was a little kid, we didn't have a comic shop anywhere near, or I didn't know of one, or didn't get to go to one. So I would get like newsstand ones occasionally, but it used to make me so mad because I couldn't get them in order. You know, like I'd find issue 1 or 2, but then it'd be like 6 the next. I'm like, it used to make me so mad. And then I did, I had a kid when I was really young, when I was like 19. So I kind of got out of everything in life and went to work, take care of my kid. And then when she was about 12 or 13, we got into Thor comics. She actually enjoyed Thor around the time the Thor movies were coming out. And so we did some Thor stuff then, got into it. And then again, I had a second kid, and I was like, kind of put it all away and, back to work.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's been amazing. The last year, my youngest daughter discovering comics would be able to, now I have boxes upon boxes everywhere in this room. So,
like, hold my drink.
Yeah,
time for me to get
my to-read pile is insane.
Yeah.
But it's whatever. I'm going back and reading all the original Thors right now. It's been a lot of fun.
That's amazing.
I'm on 150. I think I'm 157 tonight. So reading at least one a day. So it'll take me 2 years to get through them all. But
that's awesome.
That's all right. All right. If you could live in any comic book universe, which would it be?
Man, if I could live in any comic book, so like, are we talking like a Marvel DC or like
Marvel,
a specific world?
Or you can go to I've had the best answer I ever got is they wanted to live in like Peanuts. Just nothing happens, just chilling with a dog.
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting. I mean, right? out of, for lack of a better answer, I think I would rather live in the DC universe.
Okay.
Universe to me kind of narrows it,
right.
But yeah, like back in the day, I tended to be a stronger DC person. Of course, DC's been having a great couple years now. I like the idea of the cities not being quote real cities. You know, I mean, the
Yes.
whole premise of Marvel was, yeah, it's in New York, they're real people, blah blah blah. But like, I kind of like it the other way. I like, and I do that in
Gotham
my
City, Metropolis.
and I try to do that in as many of my stories as possible. It's always a slightly altered version of this of
Right.
reality. It's not Houston. It's not, you know, Los Angeles. It's whatever. You know, Kadoja takes place in a town called Port Emerald. Right. So a fusion of Seattle and Portland, right? That's just more fun to me. So yeah, I like the idea of like Metropolis and Gotham and, you know, those kind of places.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way, but that's, yeah. I was a huge Batman fan as a kid, of course, you know. But like I really enjoyed the and I'm wearing the shirt. I forgot to change into my Talking Comics shirt before this. We went to this is from Deadwood, South Dakota. So it's got like Wild Bill Hickok, Calamity Jane, you know, Seth Bullock, you know, it's from the Black Hills. We went there last summer.
Nice.
And it was funny because like a few months later, the Deadpool Wolverine series, they did the last 10 issue run of that, was set, a lot of it in Deadwood. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah,
Wild Bill's actually comes back as a zombie in that book. So
okay, that's always wild.
It's crazy. All right, so your own, that's cool. So if you could have any superpower, what would you choose? That's, you know, the cliche one.
Yeah, I mean, there's like a cliche answer. There's a cliche answer, but it also feels like the. Okay, I know what it is. This. So, one of my favorite heroes is Firestorm. So I would have the ability, and it's also incredibly powerful to have the ability to control molecules or like molecular matter. So I mean, if you're giving me a superhero, I might as well be as high powered as possible. Exactly. So let's just give me control over all matter.
Yeah, I agree. I love it. All right. You can pick any character. It doesn't have to be a sidekick, but which character would you choose as your sidekick?
So like a real life sidekick. Like I'd get to pal around with the person. Is that what you're saying? It's tough because there's like they're clever answers, but they aren't true. Right. So, you know, like a clever answer might be Lobo, but would I really want to hang around with, would I really want that as my sidekick?
Yeah.
If I could pick any characters, can I go anywhere?
Anywhere. Anything. You can pick Snoopy, you can pick Garfield. I don't care.
How about this, like now what happens is you end up having like obligatory ways to shoehorn in characters you like, right? So to that extent, I'm gonna answer Boba Fett.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, let's just have Boba Fett pal around with me, you know.
Star Wars does not get brought up on this podcast. Like this might be the second time.
Okay.
In 90 some episodes.
Yeah.
So I'm here for that. I need to figure out, I need more Star Wars in my background. There's like one thing.
Yeah. I almost answered Mechagodzilla, but that would be a very clumsy sidekick as well. Like, you know, a 300-foot tall.
I've had some interesting answers. It's been a lot of people have said the Flash.
Okay.
Which I thought was odd. Every time it seems odd to me, but they're like, "Oh, he can just like speed me away into safety." I'm like, "Okay, I get it." Yeah. And then a couple people were like Tony Stark because he's rich. I'm like, "Oh, you know, that makes sense. I totally get that one."
Yeah.
I think Stephanie Phillips literally said Garfield. I want a lasagna eating cat, which was funny. All right, this is the last one and the hardest one.
Last one.
It might be easy for you though. If your life were a comic book, what would the title be? I get some great answers on this one.
If my life were a comic book. So I'm gonna co-opt a phrase. My life would be called So if my life were a comic, what would it be called? I've seen it done worse. That would be the title of my.
That's pretty good.
Somebody said that to me at one point. I did something, and they were like, "I've seen it done worse," and I was like, "Yeah, that's like the title of my autobiography right there." Right. So.
All right. You got it. That's got to be the title, and you've got to start writing that.
Someday.
All right. I will read that. I just agreed to read a novel. That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
Where can I get all of your books? Are they all available at Invader or some?
Yeah, I mean, the safest place to get all of our books is invadercomics.com,
Okay.
right? I mean, obviously, go to your local comic shop, try to get books through your local comic shop, pre-order books through your local comic shop,
sure.
Tell the retailers you want Invader Comics, you know, call it out by name, say it's got a FOC, or just show up on Wednesday and grab one. But yeah, if you can't do that, then yeah, we have our, whatever we still have in stock, we have at invadercomics.com.
Do you still have like all your old ones in stock as well, or?
Ooh, no. I mean, I can't remember. I'd have to look, but I know we have a lot of low inventory on some of our first, second, even third year books.
Awesome. What about reprints?
We could do that. We've done it.
If there's enough demand.
Yeah, we've done it. Exactly.
Cool. So everybody go to Invader Comics to get books, or number one, go to your local comic shop before, and I'm going to release this before March 16th, and go to your shop, tell them you want Space Minotaurs, and it'll come out April 29th.
Right. Rock on.
Well, Keith, thank you so much for joining. This has been amazing.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I want you back at some point, please. Maybe when you do your next issue or whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
At some point.
Deal.
Yeah, so check out, I'll have all the links below, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again. We don't just talk about comics, we made one.
And it's called The Chronicles of Pam and Pete.
At Talking Comics, we interview creators, show off our comic hauls,
play fun games, and show what we're learning firsthand.
get a free preview of The Chronicles of Pam and Pete by subscribing to our Substack.
Watch the trailer and all the video episodes on YouTube.
Or listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Follow along, like, subscribe.
Trying to start a podcast but feeling stuck? At Aquadio, we help creators make waves with everything you need to bring your voice to life. Hosting, recording, editing, and marketing. Whether you're starting from scratch or just need a little help polishing your sound, we're here to hydropower your creativity. Comment on this video or DM us today and let's dive in.